people are freaking out about, I shouldn't say freaking out, they're making criticisms of her use of biblical and religious imagery for other uses, like talking about the crucifixion and rolling away the stone while talking about a romantic relationship, or talking about how Christians were judgmental in the context of a romantic relationship, or talking about I would die for his sins in the context of a romantic relationship. I do find it a little grating that people are so upset about use of biblical language for this other purpose when it comes to Taylor Swift, but not when Republican politicians use scripture for their political purposes.
There it is. I'm snapping.
And I agree that we should be wary of when biblical language gets used for purposes foreign to it. I do think there's some difference here in that this has been a common use for most of history, that people have drawn from different literary traditions to make a poetic point, and that's what she's doing. I think Christians should be thoughtful and critical and notice when scripture is being used and ask to what end is it being used and evaluate whether it's good or faithful, or what we can learn from it. To the point of the RNS article, we can learn something about the experience, especially of a lot of young women when it comes to religion, that can help us understand them better, can help us share the gospel better. Like, we can learn things from this. But I do find it really frustrating that we're really harsh on a young woman using this in the context of her experience of the world, and not just in romantic relationships. She's talking about her public perception and public criticism. We're not nearly as critical when politicians use this for policies that we like. We're kind of turning a blind eye to that.
And do you think that the reaction would be different if Taylor Swift was an outspoken political conservative rather than more progressive?
Yeah, we're happy in that context to say, like, wow, look, biblical language is just shaping our culture and our world. And I mean, it's kind of, we talked about this a bunch on the show. It's one reference that I pay attention to a lot. America as a city upon a hill has been used in every Republican debate during this primary. And it has never been, to my knowledge, at least it's been rarely connected to Jesus's Sermon on the Mount. It's been connected to Ronald Reagan and American history. So we're happy for that to be so completely plucked from its biblical context that we don't even recognize it as the words of Jesus anymore. But when we recognize these as biblical allusions in Taylor Swift, we assume it's mocking Christians or anti-Christian instead of asking, what is happening here? How are these things being used literarily in ways that can help us understand what she's saying better and help us understand the people she's writing for better? And not defending any of her particular theological convictions. I don't know what they are, but this does help us see an experience that someone has had. Madison Pierce, who's a New Testament scholar, wrote a great article in Mockingbird about all of these religious references as an understanding of how people are deconstructing today, or how people are understanding their relationship to the church. You don't have to agree with her. You don't have to think that how she just understands her Christianity, which she has claimed at least kind of minimally in the past, in order to learn something from this, which is how we should be responding to the politicians too. Not just saying, great, I'm glad they quoted scripture, but going, what does this tell me about my country and what people are looking for and what they want?
So to take it over to you, Mike, what I hear you saying, Caitlin, is...
This is my wheelhouse, by the way.
Yeah. Are you a Swiftie? Do you like Taylor Swift music? Do you listen to it much?
I've got a blank space.
Oh, gosh.
With her name.
No, but seriously, are you well-versed in Taylor Swift world?
I'm not even a little versed.
Oh, good. I feel better.
But when the T Swift world intersects with the NFL world, then see, that works both ways. It's not just the Swifties coming over to the New Heights podcast that they host, the Kelsey brothers, but it's all about the football folks going, look at these Swifties, they're awesome, and they're asking great questions about what is a first down and a punt. I mean, that's brilliant.
Wow. Yeah. Mike, that's so generous.
Okay, so let's get into what Caitlin just articulated here, because I think it's really valuable. What you seem to be saying is, if the person using biblical language belongs to my group or tribe, I'm going to celebrate their use of biblical language as evidence of Christians' influence on whatever it is we're talking about. But if the person using biblical references or Christian language is not part of my tribe, the assumption is they're using that language to mock my faith and to ridicule it. But it's all about what identity or tribe we assume they belong to. And because Taylor Swift is assumed to be outside of the conservative Christian, white, MAGA, whatever labels you want to put, because she's outside of that, her use of this language is seen as must be mocking, and she must not be respecting who we are as Christians.
and the end of it. Like, people are totally happy for Republican politicians to use scripture towards what I would consider pretty unjust, evil ends, as long as I like them. Like, if those policies are things I like, even if it's to my perspective, a really wrongful use of scripture, if it's a policy I already like, that's great. But in this case, I don't like the end, which is Swift's sexual ethic. So it must be a bad use of scripture instead of first asking, is this a good use of scripture?
Mike, do you know who Shane Pruitt is?
No, but I know that Taylor Swift was trouble when she first walked in.
Okay, he's just going to keep pulling lyrics out. All right, so Shane Pruitt.
No, I don't know who Shane is.
Okay, he is the National Next Gen Director for the Southern Baptist Convention's North American Mission Board. That's the title here. National Next Gen Director. So
let's make an acrostic of that.
Yeah, it's anyway. So he posted on Facebook in response to Swift's new album, urging Christian parents to seriously reconsider if they should allow their children to listen to Swift's music. Here's what he said.
I mean,
hold on, I'll get your reaction too, Caitlin. But Mike, I want to hear your response. Here's what he said. I'm definitely not the minister or parent that has the no secular music stance, he wrote. Also, I fully realize unbelievers are going to act like unbelievers. However, and the however is in all caps, there is a difference. There is a difference between being secular and being anti-Christian. Anti-Christian is in all caps. And he goes on to say that he used to listen to Taylor Swift's music, but now he thinks it's time to reconsider.
Yeah.
Goes on to say that the lyrics aren't just different than what you believe, they are actually mocking what you believe. That was his interpretation of all this. So, Mike, I mean, your kids are a little bit older, more closer to my kids' ages, but are you now going to forbid them from listening to Taylor Swift's music?
Yeah, well, Shane needs to shake it off. That's the big thing. When I read that article, Sky and Caitlin, I'm just reminded of how much I've come to see that Christianity, some circles of Christianity, the predominant way they see the world is that they are under threat and they are threatened by everything. And so the immense popularity, as Caitlin was referencing, of Taylor, if there's anything sketchy, we're going to pull that under the microscope. And I'm all for discernment. Absolutely. I think discernment can come from one of two places, though. Discernment can come from curiosity, which is what Caitlin is so beautifully exemplifying. Hey, why do people find this attractive? What are these messages really about? Versus a discernment that is almost defensive in nature because everything's a threat. And the goal of Christian parenting is keeping our kids safe so that they arrive in their honeymoons as virgins or something, instead of actually teaching them wisdom. We're just sheltering them from the storm. And obviously there's a place for that, but no, I would much rather. So my son and he loves Kendrick Lamar. And Kendrick is talking about things that are vastly beyond both of our experiences. And he's doing it in language that is not church-approved language. But he and I have so many great conversations about what it is he's talking about, why my son enjoys that music and the perspective it gives him, that I wouldn't want to cut myself off from those conversations just by writing a blank all caps, however. I would rather engage as not only a disciple of Jesus, but as a parent in the art of active discernment, which means engaging in all of the things rather than just sitting and defending and feeling like we're threatened by them.
Yeah, I think the easy approach is to just look at the whole world and put everything into the good bucket and the bad bucket, the righteous bucket, the wicked bucket. And instead of wrestling with, most things are usually a combination. Most of us are a combination of
Totally.
Right. And
the double standard that Caitlin's pointing out is the double standard that exists everywhere. As long as imagery is employed for ends that I deem worthy and just, I'm okay with it. But the minute it's not, now we're under threat. And so I want to practice a Christianity, and I want to be a part of a community that practices this genuine sort of gentle curiosity about why it is that. Because I see people all the time looking at Jordan Peterson and saying, man, what's the deal? Why are people listening to that guy? Or Andrew Tate or Mark Driscoll? And it's easy to write all of that off. It's much harder to sit and ask the the questions. Why is this attractive? What is this appealing to? Is there any redemptive thing about it? Because of course, when we get to like the world, in Greek, world can mean three different things. It's the same word. It can mean the inhabited earth, the humans who inhabit the earth. It can mean like the created system, or it could mean the hostile environment and culture that sets itself up as opposed to God. What the world doesn't mean is non-Christian culture.
Right.
And so it's incumbent on the church in this and in loads of other areas to become people that are actually trying to embody wisdom. And the only way wisdom comes about, I think, is not only through the fear of the Lord, but through being curious about what it is, why these things are gaining such traction in culture. So I love what Caitlin was saying.